Hello, today I'm going to be showing you how to install the MSI MAG CORELIQUID E360. If you're going to be installing the cooler on an Intel motherboard, the first thing to do is install your backplate. So our cooler comes with two different backplates. If you've got an LGA 1200 motherboard, you're going to use this one. We've got an LGA 1700 motherboard here, so we're going to use the one labeled 1700. On the front of the backplate, we've got some double-sided adhesive, which is going to help this stick to your motherboard. Just a simple matter of pulling these off, but because this is a temporary build, I'm not going to stick it on. So all I'm going to need to do is line it up with the holes in the back of the motherboard. Then we just need to screw one of these standoffs into each corner. If you're using an AMD motherboard, you're going to use the stock mounting clips, so there's no additional steps to take with your motherboard at the start. We're now ready to start working the IO, and the first thing to do is set our fans onto the radiator. And then we're going to use the long radiator screws that come with the IO to secure the fans. Coming from each of our fans, we've got two different cables. We've got a 4-pin PWM cable and also a 3-pin 5V ARGB cable. So I'm going to start off with the 4-pin PWM cables, and in the box with the IO, we get two triple PWM splitter cables. Now this thicker one, you'll notice, is labelled as a noise reducer. So this is going to limit the speed of the fans. It's going to help reduce noise, but it is also going to limit your cooling. So I'm going to use this standard 3-pin splitter cable. So all I'm going to need to do is take the PWM cable coming from each fan and plug it into the splitter cable. So that's just going to leave me with one 4-pin PWM cable, which we're going to plug into our CPU fan header. Next we've got our ARGB cables, and we're going to daisy chain these together. So coming from each of the fans, as well as a standard 3-pin 5V RGB cable, we've also got this additional splitter cable allowing us to daisy chain things together. So all we need to do is remove the plastic protection, take our ARGB cable coming from one of our fans and daisy chain the next one into it. And then on our third fan, if we remove the little bit of plastic protection and plug the middle fan into it. All we need to do then is plug this cable here into an ARGB header on our motherboard. You'll notice in our first fan, we've also got a spare splitter cable, and this is going to be useful if we take a look at our pump, because coming from it, we've got two cables. The first is an ARGB cable, and we're going to be able to plug that into that additional splitter cable. Then the one header on the motherboard is going to control the lighting on the pump and also the fans and the radiator. And we've also got a 4-pin PWM cable, and if we plug this into our pump header, it's going to allow us to control the speed of the pump. Next thing for us to do is install the brackets to our pump, which is going to allow us to attach it to the motherboard. So the bracket you're going to need to use depends on the motherboard you're using. So we've got brackets for Intel, and if you've got an LGA 1700 or LGA 1200 socket, you're going to use this bracket. We've got ones for Threadripper, and we've also got AMD brackets, so these are the ones we're going to use. So all we're going to do is take our bracket and slide it into the IO. And we get small screws with the IO. We're going to pop these in through the holes and secure them into place. So just before we insert our IO into the case, I'm just going to pass all the fan cables through to the back, and then we can set our IO up into place at the top. And then we can secure our IO into place at the top of the case with the 12 short radiator screws. I'm going to add some thermal paste to the center of the CPU. It is included with the IO. Before installing our IO, we're going to need to remove the plastic protection from the cold plate. And then what we're going to want to do is get the bracket on the top over the clip on the motherboard. And then we're going to want to try and get the bottom clip on. And once we've got these in place, we're just going to tighten the thumb screws up. So our pump header is this fan header towards the top right of the motherboard. So we can bring the cable coming from our pump up to the top and get it plugged in. Then I'm just going to route all the excess cable up to the top. I'm also going to route the ARGB cable through to the back. And our CPU fan header is this cable here towards the top left. So we can bring the triple splitter cable coming from the fans and the radiator back through. We'll line it up with the header and push into place. And then we'll just pull all the excess cable through to the back. Next thing to do is get our ARGB cables connected up. The first thing we can do is pull this additional plastic protection off the cables that are connected up on the fans and plug our pump cable into it. We can then take this ARGB cable, pass it back through to the front of the case and plug it into the ARGB header at the top of the motherboard. And we've got some plastic protection on the pump that we can remove. So we have the MSI logo here, and if your pump isn't sitting straight, it is rotatable. It's just a matter of twisting it round to get it into the correct orientation.